With Genshin Impact 2.7 coming up in about a week or so, you guys might have heard the same old arguments from the same old people, and that is that character X has an ability that takes too much field time. And a lot of people have sort of said, well, look at Yelon, her hold E just takes way too much time, and that's a problem for them with the character, and why not just use Xingshu? I mean, this is typically how people think, and this is what I want to discuss today. What does on-field time actually mean, and how are people still getting this like wrong after so many like versions in Genshin Impact? So let's take the so-called culprit, Yae Miko, the character that is sort of rumored to take too much field time, and let's put a bit of a perspective on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be here in my frame counting software, and you guys will see right here at this moment, I'm just sort of pressing, you can see here the directional pad, but you'll see here we're swapping to Yae Miko, but there it is at the bottom left hand corner. There's the time, do take note of it, and let's see what happens when I do triple E with Yae Miko. There it is. There's the point we can actually swap to Shenhe. And do note the time right there at the bottom. So what am I showing you? Well, in effect, there is the starting time, there is an end time, and then there's a difference about 2.18 seconds. And you might say, that's so long, but it's not really. It's only 1.83 seconds. But why is that? Well, it's pretty simple. Every single character, it doesn't matter whether it's Bennett, Xiangling, or Xingshu, or whatever your beloved characters are, any character in the game, once you swap to them, will be forced to take a 1 second field time. You can do whatever you want in that 1 second, but you cannot switch. There's nothing you can do. This is an inherent cost to every single character. So from my perspective, every character takes on field time, or we can perhaps be more realistic about it and discount the character switching costs, because that's always just going to be there. In other words, the time that it took Yae Miko to effectively waste, or the time that she wastes on field, was only about 1.183 seconds. I can promise you Mona with her elemental burst wastes way more time, including like the character switching costs and so on. And this is the thing that a lot of people don't really speak about, because whilst you can in this 1 second do some fancy animation cancel, double tapping, you'll see here with Klee, we are just going to do sort of a quick little animation cancel, and we can sort of overlap the time that it takes to cast and all of these things with the character switching cooldown. Whilst you can do all of this to minimize your effective on-field time, there's another hidden cost, and that is positioning. And this is something people don't talk about, so let's just rewind a bit back to where we were. Yae Miko is one of the few characters that when you use either her elemental skill, she won't auto-target enemies. If I had Shenhe right here, well, Shenhe is going to go straight into the enemy. Klee, she's going to target the enemy. Kokomi will spam her jellyfish in a certain direction. If it's Sucrose and you want an animation cancel on her, she's going to hit a certain target, the nearest target. With all of these characters, it doesn't matter how you want to dash cancel, use your abilities, repositioning is kind of difficult to weave in this 1 second window. Whereas with Yae Miko, in the very instance that I wanted to sort of swap, you can see with Kokomi, I'm already holding my directional key. I can go left, right, forwards, backwards. It doesn't matter. Yae Miko, in a certain sense, gives you that additional flexibility to reposition how you want. And this is something people don't talk about. They don't seem to actually recognize the power of being able to space well, because Yae Miko, by spacing like this, actually saves on-field time from your active character having to first reposition, then apply their skills, then swap off. And very often that will take you about 1 second if you're like the average player and so on. So from my sort of personal opinion, this idea that Yae Miko takes excessive field time is kind of rubbish. And I know a lot of people will say, well, the reason she takes field time is because you have to triple E, then Q, then triple E again, and it doesn't help if she's your starting character. And to this, it's just like, yeah, people don't understand that you are not supposed to use Yae Miko's elemental burst immediately after casting all three of her E's, except under exceptional circumstances. You're supposed to be putting down your beloved Bennett field, swirling with Kazuha and Sucrose, getting that sort of VV shred onto the enemies, and then right at the end, before your VV shred expires, you can then go to your Yae Miko, activate your elemental burst, and now suddenly you can still reposition. If you're in the spiral burst, you can now move closer to the other side of the floor if enemies are going to spawn there. You can avoid movements, etc., etc. It's just, when it comes to the practicalities of on-field time, I don't think theory crafters and the community actually understand what it practically means. So what we're going to do is show you how to actually do it in the spiral abyss, and let's swap over to that. So whilst there are a bazillion variations on what we can do, I want to sort of show you what I'm doing. I'm sweeping enemies off their feet, quickly overlapping those cooldown costs like we sort of said, quickly going back here to Yae Miko, and yeah, there it is. I casted a lot of abilities, and I have all the time in the world to now cast my Q and then sort of use triple E to position to where I want to be, where I want to lead the Kairagi to, because this will allow me to sort of sweep as many of these guys as possible as they're going to spawn in and so on. And this is the cool thing about Yae Miko. You've got all of this optionality. Again, I'm bringing back those enemies that are further away. I'm drawing them in by positioning well. This is just how you can play. I'm being very careful as to how I'm applying my elemental burst, and there we go. A very simple and easy clear. Now we'll do the same on the second half. This is the thing a lot of people don't realize. At some point between all four of your characters, if you just theoretically now push all your abilities onto the field as quickly as possible in a 4-second window, then because of cooldown overlap, one of your characters will have to take the field. There is going to be mandatory field time for some character, and I think people don't often acknowledge this. And a very good example of this is, if let's say if you take something like the Rider National, you instantly use your Bennett, Xiangling E into Q, then Xingshu Q, and then you hit it with E, then into Raiden. But this is the thing a lot of people don't speak about. Whilst all the other cooldowns on your Bennett, Xiangling, and Xingshu are like busy sort of coming off cooldown whilst they're busy running, your Raiden is on the field. She's the one taking that mandatory field time. And in this case, in a very quick swap team like this, whether it's Kokomi or Yae Miko or Sucrose, you've got that flexibility to decide how much you want to force any given unit to be on the field. It's not as strict, it's not as rotationally locked as many of the theory crafted teams are. And that's what I love about Yae Miko. You've got that optionality, you've got that flexibility, particularly in a sort of taser variant like this, and I kind of really like it. So yeah, for me, the idea that a character like Yae Miko just wastes too much field time, it's just kind of silly. I think it definitely is very team comp dependent, and it's very dependent on you actually playing the game. So as all of my channel subscribers know, this is the point of the video where we're going to waste as much time as possible on the final floor, so that I can give a couple of concluding remarks. So this is what I've got to say. When you look at new characters, try and be very careful of just putting them into something like the Rider National or any other sort of meta variant, because the moment you do that, you're only looking at the character from a specific lens. If instead you took that character and you said, okay, this is the character that I've got, let me now try and build a team around this character. It doesn't have to be an existing taser team, it doesn't have to be a freeze team or whatever. Let me just see what this character's got. Then you'll very quickly realize what the do's and don'ts are of a character, and once you figure that out, you can very quickly assess whether a character is going to be worth it. But if you just stick to the, oh, how well is this going to replace Xingshu and Rider National, then you're not going to get very far. Then you're going to be like a lot of the theory crafters that are going to be like, Yellen, yeah, she's a maybe. Well, that doesn't tell us anything. What you need to do is be experimental. You need to be irreverent. You need to break all of the rules, because the moment you do that, you gain all the insight. You don't need to wait a week for the frame data and for the spreadsheets of theory crafters. All you need to do is just play around with the character, and you can figure them out from day one. And the moment you do that, I think you will have a lot of fun. And if you don't want to do that, we're going to do it on this channel, so please stay tuned. Thanks, guys.